Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Power Season 5, Episode 3, which was titled, Are We on the Same Page? So guys, before we get started, I have there's a person I follow on YouTube. You can find her under T.I. Bivens. That's T.I. and then Bivens, B-I-V-E-N-S. And if you get a chance, go over to her channel and check out her review of Power. She's not really talking about the episode, but she's just talking about like the ridiculousness of the writing in the show. And she points out something that I didn't even think about. She says that the entire Power series in Season 1 has taken place over the span of 4 months, and that they have been in the winter time the majority of the 4 seasons and now leading up to the 5th season, and that they're just now going into spring. And I was like, okay, I didn't even think about that. So let me know, do you guys think that all of this, like the past 4 seasons, have taken place over the span of 4 months? And because it kind of reminded me of Queen Sugar. If you follow my Queen Sugar reviews, then you know I'm always talking about, like, it seems like years have passed, at least 2 years have passed, but they're saying that it's just now the 1-year anniversary of the father dying, and the show actually opened up with in Season 1. They're on Season 3 now, but when Queen Sugar opened up, I think the first and second episode, the father had a heart attack or a stroke and he ends up dying, and so now they're just now having like a 1-year memorial service. And I'm like, I know all the crap that has gone on in that show, that more than a year has passed. But anyway, I love that video. Just the sarcasm was just awesome, and it started my day off. But let me go ahead and get into this Power recap, because y'all know it'd be so much going on that last week I had to break it up into 2 videos, but I'm not doing that this week. So the show opens, it's the morning after Ghost has killed Jeff, who was the drunk who killed the couple at the support group's son. And so he's splashing water on his face and everything, and then he looks down and there's like all this blood all over his hands. But we realize that he's just having a hallucination, because then he picks up a white towel and dries his hands off and there's no blood on the towel. And so the phone rings, and it turns out to be the front desk, and they're calling to tell him that there's a detective there who wants to speak to him. And so Ghost is like, fine, go ahead and send him up. So then Ghost welcomes Lieutenant, I think it was Detective Leary, welcomes him inside, and then Tasha comes out and greets him, and they call for Tariq because he's there to talk to Tariq. But he's telling them that, them doing that press conference and creating the tip line was a really great idea, because they've gotten some calls in, and one of the calls is a student saying that they saw Tariq go out the door first, and then Raina ran after him. And when Tariq gave his statement to the police, he said that he went out the door second. So then they, asked Tariq to tell the police officer, like, clarify what happened. And so then Tariq says that he went out the door twice and maybe they didn't see him come back in the first time. And Tasha looking at him like, Negro, I know you lied. So get your butt on back in that room where you really messed this up. And so she tells the detective, we're getting ready to take Tariq to school and he needs to get ready. So the guy's like, okay, but we're going to solve this mystery. We're going to find out, what really happened to Raina. Then Ghost ends up leaving with the detective because he was on his way out anyway. And so then Tasha, she's talking to Tariq and asks Tariq, were you out there when Ray Ray killed Raina? And Tariq is still holding on to that lie that he did not see what happened. So Ghost heads over to Tommy's house where he meets up with Tommy and Kanan. And so while they're playing a game of pool, Ghost tries to get some answers out of Kanan about Tariq. And he was like, did Reek tell you how he knew Ray Ray was looking for him while, he hit you up? And so then Kanan reminds Ghost that, he ain't supposed to be talking to the little Nigga. Remember? So no, I don't know how Tariq knew. So now Tommy wants to know why Ghost is asking so many questions. So Ghost catches Tommy and Kanan up to speed and tells them about the police officer coming over to the house. And Tasha got tricked into doing the press conference about Raina's murder and all of that. So they're hearing about the press conference. Tommy wants to know why somebody who always talk about they trying to get out the game is always on television. So we trying to figure that out also. But Ghost says that he's trying to build this legacy for Raina, and so he's going to do whatever it takes to get it done. Then the topic switches over to Diego, and Tommy tells Ghost that killing the Jimenez should be their top priority, but Ghost thinks otherwise and says that he'd rather shoot Dre in his face. So then Kanan offers up a better idea and tells them that 2-Bit, which is the guy Francis who killed Lorenzo in the last episode, and Dre are beefing and figures that they could use that to take advantage of the situation and get the drop on Jimenez. So now they looking at him like, well, how you know all this information? So then Kanan, he's like, well, I was been checking out Dre. And then Ghost was like, okay, but I thought we was working together as a team. Why is you doing stuff on your own? And then Kanan said something like, I brought the homework home, or I brought the information back to you, so ain't we still working together? So Tommy pulls Ghost to the side and says that, he has to clean some money for Jason, and he's wondering if him and Ghost could go back to the old days when he used to run money through the club. So Ghost tells him that he can't be involved in any stuff like that and that he has to stay clean. So Kanan is nearby, listening, trying to figure out what's going on. And after Ghost leaves, he tells Tommy that he should let him in on his product so he can help him move it faster, take some weight off his hands, and repay Jason. So Tommy says he's doing all right with the Italians, okay? So no offense, Kay, but if I do bring you into this, you're going to have to put some money up front just like everybody else. So Tommy thinks that, this is going to get Kanan to step back because obviously Kanan ain't got no money. So then Kanan takes a sip of water, trying to come up with a master plan, which is to get in good with Tommy so he can get in good with Jason and eventually take over Tommy's territory. So I guess they really not a team. So it's nighttime and Kanan is waiting for Francis, aka 2-Bit, and he walks by and spots Kanan. So they take a little walk as Kanan, tries to turn 2-Bit against Dre. So 2-Bit starts talking, he running his mouth, just yap, 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 and tells Kanan that Dre is treating him like he's a kid and gave all of his work to Cristobal. So he says that he thinks the new connect likes Cristobal more than he likes Dre. And Kanan replies, newsflash, everybody likes everybody more than they like Dre, and that's a fact. So Kanan is here with the jokes, okay? And it's so, the girl pointed out that Kanan's role is so close to 50 Cent and how he carries on social media. And I have to agree because I was thinking the same thing. Like 50 Cent isn't even acting in this show. He just being himself. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you're new to my reviews, I don't do the stuff in the order that happened on the show. I try to condense everybody's role, you know, into one section and talk about everything that happened between them instead of just jumping all over the place. Then we go over to the Internal Affairs Director with the NYPD, Blanca Rodriguez. And so she visits Detective Leary at the police station, and they both discuss Ray Ray. And so Detective Leary tells her that Ray Ray visited Tariq while he was in school, but Tariq cut school that day, so Ray Ray ended up talking to Raina. So Blanca is like, so my dad cop talked to your dead girl days before they were both killed. So Detective Leary also tells Blanca that Angela visited the school the day after Raina was shot, and she was also asking about Ray Ray. So meanwhile, Angela and Tamika both try to figure out the identity of the woman who was seen leaving the murder scene with Diego Jimenez. So remember, the feds think that the Jimenez cartel is actually two brothers. They don't know that it's a brother and a sister. So Angela thinks with the evidence and surveillance footage they have a rock solid, they can get a rock solid arrest warrant. But Tamika tells Angela she's moving too fast and that taking out just one of the Jimenez brothers won't do much since their cartel is so massive. She tells Angela, you know, I get it, you have history to rewrite, but don't fumble on the first play. And then Angela lets her know arresting the Jimenez should be this office's first priority. So Blanca pays Angela a visit at her office and questions her about her involvement with Ray Ray's case. So she's trying to get to the bottom of why Angela is so invested in the case. But Angela says that she's invested because she knew Raina personally and that she's working on an investigation, so she can't answer too many of Blanca's questions. So Blanca simply wants to know how Ray Ray and Raina are connected, but Angela doesn't give up any answers. So after Blanca leaves, Angela texts Tasha, we need to meet. So Tasha's phone is vibrating as she attends another grief counseling session, and this time Ghost is with her, so I guess he can't face them people knowing that he had to kill that man. So she listens to the couple, and they're crying, and they're letting the group know that Jeff was murdered, and that, you know, it doesn't ease their pain because it doesn't bring Luke back. And then the father says that, and to make matters worse, they think that I killed him. And then, you know, the wife is just basically saying it won't bring our baby back. And so Tasha's sitting there looking at that empty seat like, oh, that's why this joker didn't come to this meeting. So she is like too through with Ghost at this moment. So afterwards, Tasha meets with Angela and finds out about Blanca and how she's becoming a problem because she made a connection between Ray Ray and Raina. So Angela doesn't think that Blanca would stop looking for leads, but says that she can't stop it, or she may be able to stop it. So she suggests that they bring Jamie, you know, in on to what's going on and this, you know, what they're trying to do to save Tariq. But Tasha's like, girl, you must be out your mind. That would be the worst thing that we can do. And plus, I'm not trying to send my husband back over there to you. So Angela comes up with another plan, further implicating herself. And so we're going to see where this is going to go. But basically, she sends Agent Donovan over to Blanca's office with two FBI agents who are carrying boxes. And he says that they need assistance with gathering the files connected with Ray Ray's murder. So basically, they have overstepped Blanca to get her off the case, and now saying that they need to seize all the information that she has for their own investigation. And now that's just making her more curious as to what's going on. So now we know she's going to become a rogue cop and go after Angela to find out what's going on. So back at the office, Angela and her team continue to pursue the Jimenez cartel as they finally figure out that Alicia Jimenez is Diego's sister. So Angela declares, we're idiots. Then Cooper come back and says, speak for yourself. I ain't no damn idiot. You the one Acting like you know everything. So Angela says they now have the leaders of the biggest cartel in North America right there in New York City, and that arresting the Jimenez could end their entire organization with no jurisdictional BS. So at home, Tasha tells Ghost about the drunk driver being killed, and Ghost is unbothered and says, well, they can rest easy knowing that he's dead. So Tasha comes with it and asks him if he killed the man. And actually she said, tell me you had nothing to do with it. And so Ghost says, I ain't had nothing to do with it. And walks by her. So Tasha knows he's lying and asks what is wrong with him. And she says, you can't kill Dre, and for some effing reason you refuse to kill Kanan, but now you out here in these streets trying to be a vigilante. And so they don't feel better about him being dead, just like we don't feel better about Ray Ray being dead. You know, it doesn't bring Raina back. Ghost defends his decision, saying that the parents will eventually feel better. Plus, no one is going to miss the guy. He's just a drunk off the street that won't get an opportunity to kill another kid. When Tasha yells, you don't get to make that effing call, Ghost jumps up from the table into Tasha's face. I thought he was going to slap Tasha, and reminds her that he's been making that call since she's known him. So Tasha has to get the last word in and suggests that the next time he feels the need to kill somebody, make sure it's Kanan. And I'm just like, what is it with Kanan? Oh, then I remember she was having the affair with Sean, and Kanan killed Sean. So maybe that's why she's so angry with Kanan. So back at the club, Ghost and Councilman Tate take a meeting with a private investor named Linda, who's played by Gabrielle, oh God, what's her last name? Boulay. Remember she played on the show with Jamie Foxx where they worked in the hotel? I think it was the Jamie Foxx show. Well, anyway, she plays Linda, and she done put on a few pounds, so it was like a little awkward situation because, you know, in real life, Ghost is not that big of a man. You know, he's muscular, but he ain't tall. And so they both discuss different residential and retail zones for their project and memorial for Raina, you know, which kind of shows that, you know, the project really isn't that fully formed and that there's little cohesiveness between Ghost and Tate. So Linda cuts the meeting short and says that the project isn't for her and she doesn't want to invest in it. And I think they were looking for like $12 million, but they wanted to give her the first opportunity. And then once other people saw that she invested in the property, then they'll invest in the project also. After Linda leaves, Tate tries to check Ghost about him bringing up the retail portion of the meeting. So like I say, the two aren't on the same page, and Tate thinks that Ghost bringing up his retail idea is what ran Linda away. And so he wants Ghost to be on board with him and to follow his lead, but Ghost reminds him that this is his vision. So he says, the only reason why you're in my vision is because you know I know how to make something great happen. So I was like, okay, now. So then Tate responds, I know you know how to run a successful club, but this is a completely different game, my brother. Listen, we're in this together, you and I. We are a team, and as your partner, with all due respect, I think you need to take some time off. I'll be sure to handle private investment, and I'll make sure that Raina gets honored. So Ghost faces Tate and says back to him, you know, with all due respect, it's my project, it's my daughter, I'll get it done, and you can see yourself out. I was like, oh, Lord. So then Ghost decides to meet with Linda again by himself. So they're having dinner and they're flirting with each other. And next thing we know, Linda done took off her big old wedding band, dropped it in her purse, told Ghost, come on upstairs and bring that bottle of wine with you. So he go upstairs and blow Linda back out. Now, I used to love the little sex scenes with Ghost, and especially when he used to be on Being Mary Jane, like he used to be tearing Mary Jane up. But I noticed in this episode that he does the same thing. We have the scene where he eating the woman out with her up against some glass window. Then he carries her over to the bed. Then he just ram, flip over, ram. It's always the same scene. And like I said, because Gabrielle is bigger than him, it just looked awkward and it didn't look sexy at all to me. So the next day, Ghost meets with Tate and they're at the nightclub Truth. And so he's gloating about getting the deal done, but after realizing that Ghost had sex with Linda, Tate tells him that you played yourself and just showed her that just that we don't know what we doing. You proved her point. And so then Ghost was acting like, oh, like a light bulb came on and he didn't realize that. But that was kind of, okay, I don't know what that was all about. But personally, I think that Ghost was just horny as hell and needs to get off, because yes, he had sex since him and Angela broke up. Like, he out here killing people trying to get off. He done had sex with Linda trying to get off. Like, I think him and Tasha need to smash and he'll be okay. So we move over to Diego. So Diego pops in on Dre and his crew at the warehouse, and Dre updates his crew and welcomes Arturo as the newest member of their team. So Dre says Arturo got revenge for his cousin Euro's death and that he murdered Lorenzo. Now remember, it was 2-Bit that murdered Lorenzo, so he's standing in the back going like, what the hell is this all about? So Diego steps up into Arturo's face and says, I heard that there are some supporters that challenge your accusation of Lorenzo killing Uriel, and they're questioning whether you were justified to murder him. So before Arturo can answer, Dre speaks up and says that if there's a dispute, it'll get dealt with quick and effectively. So Diego switches up and starts talking to Arturo in Spanish. And so he's acting like Arturo is really the one in charge and not Dre. So Dre doesn't know what Diego just said, but Arturo responds in English and says some of Lorenzo's peeps are still running their mouths, but that's a plan, but he has a plan to light them up. So Diego says that he would like to see that firsthand to see how Arturo handles his loyalty. So Dre asks Diego if he thinks it's a good idea, since it's already tough putting all their face-to-face meetings together, and he doesn't want law enforcement suspecting anything. But Diego says that he doesn't give a F about all that. He wraps up the meeting and Dre walks off pissed because he knows he's losing ground. So Dre is losing control, and later Arturo reveals the 3 guys he says killed Uriel. And before he executes them to prove himself to Diego, Diego asks Arturo, how did he know that Lorenzo killed his cousin? So Dre speaks up again and says Lorenzo ran his mouth, so that's how word got out. And then Diego embarrasses Dre by saying, why do you insist on answering a question that isn't addressed to you? And then in Spanish, he says to Arturo, this man is obnoxious. How do you put up with him? So still trying to show his loyalty to Dre, Arturo says Dre is right and that Lorenzo was talking crap. So Diego tells Dre to keep his guys in check and asks, I don't know how you make my sister's pussy so wet, but you don't get my dick hard. And I keep telling y'all, Dre gonna end up killing Diego when Diego tests his manhood and try to F him. I just see it coming. So Cooper and John, Lord, they head over to the federal prison to pay a visit to Tony Teresi in jail. And so they chat with him about his lawyer moving to have his sentence commuted. So Cooper says they would be happy to let him out of jail, just let him walk out free, but they need something in return. So Teresa reminds them that the reason he's in prison for life is because he is not a snitch. So John gets his attention by bringing up Connie and the opportunity to spend time with Connie in her last final days, because y'all know the medicine isn't working and Connie is getting worse. Teresi's attention seems to be piqued and he's ready to talk. So Cooper and John are interested in knowing what Teresi and Tommy have been talking about and if he can tell them about Tommy's business and his friend Ghost. So Teresi starts laughing and says, you two think you came up with this all by yourself. So that he basically tries to turn the tables and makes like it was all a setup, that he's been playing Tommy and doing all of this so that they would try to use Tommy and Connie against him to get him to turn over, and that they basically played into his hands, which don't make no sense to me. Because supposedly he's in prison because he done murdered all these doggone people, so now they just gonna let him walk the streets just to get Tommy and Ghost. So Teresi assures John that Tommy doesn't have a clue. So later on, Teresi calls up Tommy and tells him the news about the case and how he may see daylight soon. So Teresi lies to Tommy and says him getting out may have something to do with a crooked prosecutor whose cases may be thrown out, which will overturn his conviction. And so he's like, hey, I'm too old to worry about the details. I just can't wait to make up lost time with you, son. So Teresi is playing Tommy like a fiddle, but Tommy is sitting there like, this don't sound right to me. So after they hang up the phone, Teresi looks over to Mark, and Mark is standing there, and he had been listening to the whole conversation. So Tommy meets with Proctor and asks if he knows anyone who can launder money. And I don't know why you going to this man when he's fighting to get his license back. But Proctor was like, man, I ain't got time for that. But on other news, he says he looked up Teresi just like Tommy wanted him to do, and everything seems to check out. And he says that Teresi getting out of prison looks legit, and Tommy wants him to confirm that Teresi didn't snitch, but Proctor says as far as he knows, he did not. So Tommy also pops up at Keisha's place and says that he has something he needs to talk to her about. And so the two of them sit down and talk, and he's basically talking about Teresi getting out and how he thinks that Teresi has ulterior motives. And then in the meantime, they get to going back and forth and talking about the breakup of their relationship and trust and all that stuff. But in the end, Keisha says that she thinks that maybe his father is trying to make up for lost mistakes, and that Tommy should just give him a chance. That she ain't got time to be putting her heart out on the line. And plus, when Tommy first got there, she said that somebody was coming over, so she needed to get Tommy out of her apartment anyway. So Tasha pops up at Tommy's place and knocks on the door, but he's not home yet. So Kanan comes up behind her. When she turns around and starts to walk away, he steps in front of her and talking about he's sorry about Raina. And of course, Tasha goes all the way off. But by now, Kanan then grabbed her by her arm, had her jerked up. I was like, oh, Lord. So then Kanan points out that Tariq's life is the way it is because she picked a drug dealer for her father. And he still has Tasha by the arm, and he tells her that, but you still looking good. And I know y'all told me in the comments last week that Courtney said that Tariq and Raina are not Kanan's kids, and there was never any involvement with Tasha and Kanan. But it just, because it was actually one line he said that kind of made me think that maybe he had done raped Tasha before. And I went back and looked at the show again, and I didn't pick up that in the second time that I was watching it. But anyway, him and Tasha made for some good TV in that exchange, and they seem to have more pent-up energy than her and Ghost have. So Tasha took his comment as he was planning to rape her for something, like I said, because she replies, if you F with me, you better kill me, nigga, because I swear to God, best to believe I will get you back. And Kanan seems to love the challenge and smiles at her saying, I believe you, baby. So Tommy finally arrives and feels the tension. Kanan plays it cool and says him and Tasha were just chopping it up. And Tasha is pissed. And so she walks off and says, F you, Kanan. Then yells at Tommy, and F you too for bringing him into our lives. Of your family, not him. And of course, Tommy is confused and asks Kanan, like, what did you say to her? And, Kanan looking like nothing. So then Tommy chases after Tasha, running out of the building. And actually, she took the elevator, and he must have took the stairs because they ended up at the door at the same time. He lets Tasha know, once they deal with Dre, Kanan will be gone, so she needs to just chill out. And then he asks her, why did she come by? So she tells him that she came by to tell him about Ghost killing the drunk driver, and Tommy agrees with Ghost that no one is going to miss the guy. But Tommy promises to keep an eye on Ghost and says that the thing with Kanan won't be too much longer. And Tasha warns that she is prepared to deal with Kanan herself if things drag out too long. So Tasha and Keisha catch up. So Keisha tells that she let Tommy believe that she had a man coming over, but it was just someone bringing samples for the hair shop. And so after filling Tasha in, she shifts the conversation to Tariq. So Tasha admits that she doesn't know what is going on with Tariq or if he's telling her everything. And Keisha reminds her that she and Ghost have been lying to their kids their whole life. So what does she expect other than you raised a liar? And adding that they don't even know who you are, and so they can't learn what they don't see. see. And then Keisha, with her bad acting, quickly apologizes after thinking that her words were too harsh. But Tasha agrees with her and says that it's the truth. And Keisha suggests that Tasha try doing something differently. So, child, that night, Tasha drives Tariq to his new school in Connecticut, and it is pitch black at night. Ain't a car in sight, although we do see somebody walk by in the distance. But I'm like, who checks their child in the middle of the night? But anyway, her and Tariq sit in the car, and Tasha apologized for lying to him all this time and says that he deserves the truth. So she tells Tariq about her and Ghost's past and how they both grew up in Queens in the hood and how they sold drugs. So she says, we always wanted something different for our kids, and we didn't want you all to feel hunger like that, and we didn't know, we didn't want you to know the streets like we did. We thought we were protecting you, but all we did was teach you how to be the same way we were. So then Tariq, he breaks down and apologizes, and then he tells his mom that, he was scared, and he finally confessed that he saw Ray Ray shoot Raina, and said that he didn't know that Raina had followed him outside and that he was actually hiding from Ray Ray when the shooting took place. So he's crying and, he's like, I watched her die. I miss her so much. And so, Tasha's embracing him and everything. And I'm just like, is Tariq being sincere as he's playing his mama like a fiddle like he's been doing all along? So then back at Tommy's, his mom shows up. So Kate had some food that she said she brought over for Rhonda. So then Tommy was like, Rhonda? Then he's like, you mean Raina, Mom? Like, she been dead, gone. We done buried her and everything. Like, what is you doing? But really what Kate was there for was she needed some more cocaine. So Kate sees Tommy is still pissed over the whole birth certificate thing. And Tommy gives his mom, the cocaine because he knew that's all she wanted. And she get to snorting right away. And so he also tells her that Teresi is getting an early release from prison. Kate warns Tommy that Teresi is the devil and he will most likely want something from him, so he better be careful and stay away from the man. So then we go over to Kanan. So Kanan sets his plan in motion to get quick money and destroy Dre's crew. So Cristobal walks out to his truck and his SUV and calls Dre and leaves a message that he's carrying $300,000. So he puts a duffel bag in the trunk and gets in the SUV and is welcomed with a gun to his head. So Kanan was sitting in the back seat and got this doggone mask on. And so he points the gun at Cristobal and tells him to give him the keys. So Cristobal is trying to reason with the man that he doesn't know is Kanan. And Kanan isn't having it, So Cristobal eventually complies and Kanan presses the lock to unopen the hatch of the back of the SUV. And so two guys come quickly, grab the duffel bag and run off. So like I say, Kanan is here for the jokes. Okay, so Cristobal says that mask ain't gonna stop me from finding out who you are. And Kanan knocks him over the head and says, quit playing with me, bitch. Don't know by now, I love me some 50 Cent, okay? So by now, Dre knows what happened to Cristobal, and Two-Bit says that Dre effed up when he gave Cristobal all of that money. So Dre tells his crew that there are some changes and that Cristobal is officially his number 2. So if anyone needs anything, see Cristobal first. But that don't make no sense to me, because if Cristobal just got jacked for $300,000, do you really want him to be your number 2 man? But I guess that's the only person that Dre can really trust at this point. So as Angela, we go over to Angela. So as she's walking out of her office, looking down at some files, she bumps into this guy and all of her papers fly all over the place. So the guy apologizes and helps her pick up the papers. And he also recognizes who she is, saying Agent Medina spoke about her not too long ago. And I think Agent Medina might have been the guy she was talking to earlier in the show who had helped her figure out or had gotten her information on the Jimenez people, but he said he had to go back to Mexico or something. So the guy introduces himself as Steve Tampio and hands Angela his business card, and she sees that he's the director of public enrichment. So Steve is straightforward and asks Angela to dinner. So Angela goes out to dinner with Steve, and she talks about her job and says that it has ruined some of her past relationships. And she also says being the boss means she has more enemies than friends at work. And she tells Steve that she has a lead on the Jimenez cartel. So then Angela meets up. Then she decides later to meet up with him at his hotel room. And she figured she might as well, since he's only there for one more night. So he pours them some wine, and her phone buzzes, and he asks to see her phone. So he takes the phone from her and places it in the nightstand drawer so it doesn't interrupt them that night. And I'm sitting there thinking, why not turn the phone off or put the phone on silent? Because you're going to hear the phone even louder in that drawer, which is exactly what happens, because they start kissing and then the phone starts vibrating again. So she reaches in the drawer and gets the phone and checks it, but then ignores the call, which we know automatically means that it was Ghost. So then Steve offers her a drink, and basically, I think they might have slept together. Yeah, I think they did sleep together. And we have a scene where Ghost is trying to call Angela, which we already know that was him trying to call her when she was with the guy Steve. So he calls Tommy and agrees to go back into the arrangement they previously had to clean the money at the club, because he needs clean money to finance the project with Tate. And Tommy needs the money for Jason so they can help each other out. So Ghost wants to make sure before they do this that Tommy and Kanan are in business together, but because that's not the road he wants to travel right now. Like, he like Kanan, he appreciates what Kanan is doing, but he ain't trying to go all the way in with Kanan. So then Tommy gets a knock at the door, and it's Kanan. So he tells Ghost that he'll call him back. So Tommy opens the door, and Kanan has a duffel bag full of money. So he tells Tommy it's $250,000 up front and asks if Tommy is going to cut him in or not. So Tommy takes the money and tells Kanan, you know, I'll have it ready for you tomorrow. So he tells Kanan about Teresi and says he doesn't trust him since he's getting out on a life sentence. But Tommy is worried about that Teresi. What's that saying? Trust your first mind. The first time you thought Teresi was about to do you wrong, you should have went with it. But he asking everybody for their opinion and getting a different answer. So Tommy still thinks that there's a possibility that Teresi may be snitching. But Kanan then finds out that Teresi is Tommy's dad and that he's part of the mafia. So he's thinking about Armani suits right now. So he says he understands why Tommy is working with the Italians, because he can get them good deals on them designer clothes. So Kanan tells Tommy not to trip and don't waste the opportunity of having a father, because he himself never had his dad around, and look how his life turned out. So the show ends with Teresi getting released from prison and Tommy picking him up in the Blue Mobile. That everybody keep asking what happened to that triker. Like, did they ever go back and remove the triker, or if the triker is still on Tommy's car and they can just turn it on and off whenever they please. So Teresi suggests that they go get a slice of pizza and go home so he can see Connie. Then tells Tommy that afterwards the two of them are going to get into some trouble together. So Tommy giggling like a little kid, and then they pull off from the curb. And guys, that was it. So leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Rate the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.